Welcome back to Crime Story with Camila. Today we talk about a chilling story, the dark secrets of the Turpin family. Stay tuned as we delve in. David and Louise Turpin appeared to be the epitome of a loving couple. High school sweethearts from Princeton, West Virginia. They married in 1985 and set out to build a life filled with their dreams of family and faith. David, a successful engineer, provided a stable income, while Louise stayed home to care for their children. By the early 2000s, their family had grown to 13 children, a large, devoutly religious household that many saw as unique and admirable. But beneath the surface, cracks in this seemingly happy family were forming. The Turpins lived an isolated life, moving frequently and keeping to themselves. Neighbors often wondered about the large family, but never imagined the secrets hiding behind closed doors. David and Louise presented a picture-perfect facade, often dressing their children in matching outfits and taking them on trips to Disneyland. But their public image was just that, a facade. Behind the smiles were whispers of strict rules and odd behaviors. The move to Paris marked the beginning of a period of extreme isolation and unimaginable suffering for the Turpin children, setting the stage for one of the most shocking cases of child abuse in modern history. The Turpin family home from the outside seemed like any other suburban house. But inside, it was a house of horrors, a place where cruelty and control reigned supreme. The Turpin children lived in unimaginable conditions. Their home was filled with filth, piles of garbage, soiled clothes, and the stench of human waste. The children were forbidden to bathe more than once a year, and some were never allowed to leave their rooms. David and Louise Turpin used chains and padlocks to keep their children restrained for hours, days, or even weeks at a time. They were punished for the smallest infractions, speaking out of turn, washing their hands above the wrist, or taking food without permission. The children were starved and given meager portions of food, often just slices of bread or peanut butter. While David and Louise indulged in takeout and lavish meals, the children went hungry, with some resorting to eating scraps from the trash. Malnourishment was so severe that some of the children were on the brink of death. One 29-year-old sibling weighed just 82 pounds, and several others had growth stunted by years of neglect. Neighbors said to the media, "We thought they were homeschooled." But looking back, we never saw the kids playing outside, never heard laughter or the sounds of life coming from the house. Despite claiming to homeschool their children, David and Louise provided little to no education. The siblings could barely read or write, and some didn't even know what medicine or police officers were. On social media, Louise painted a different picture, posting happy family photos, renewing vows with David, and boasting about their large family. But behind the scenes, the children were living in isolation, their screams and pain hidden from the world. The children were forbidden from making noise or interacting with the outside world. For years, they suffered in silence, unable to escape the nightmare their parents created. The Turpin house wasn't just a home, it was a prison. And for 13 children, it was a place where hope seemed impossible until one brave act would change everything. After years of enduring unimaginable abuse, 17-year-old Jordan Turpin decided she could no longer live in fear. On the night of January 14th, 2018, she summoned all her courage to take a leap into the unknown. Jordan had been planning her escape for 2 years, secretly observing the outside world and memorizing details about her surroundings. That night, she slipped out through a window, armed only with a deactivated cell phone she had managed to find in the house. She called 911. 911, what's your emergency? Hi, I just ran away from home because I live in a family of 15 and we have abusive parents. My 2 little sisters right now are chained up. Jordan described the horrific conditions she and her siblings endured. She spoke of the chains, the starvation, and the years of isolation. Her words shocked the dispatcher, who immediately sent officers to the scene. When officers arrived, they were greeted by a sight that would haunt them forever. The 13 siblings were found living in filth, their fragile bodies showing the scars of years of abuse. Officers said, "We found children chained to their beds, others so emaciated they looked much younger than their actual age. Some were too weak to walk or speak. The youngest child, a toddler, appeared surprisingly unharmed. But the older siblings bore the physical and emotional scars of a lifetime of abuse. Many of them didn't know what police were or why they were being rescued. David and Louise Turpin were arrested that night, charged with multiple counts of child abuse, torture, and false imprisonment. For the children, it was the beginning of a long journey toward freedom and healing. Jordan Turpin also said, "I was so scared, but I knew that if I didn't do it, my siblings and I might not survive another day." Jordan's bravery saved 13 lives that night. Her decision to escape and seek help ended years of unimaginable suffering and brought the horrors of the Turpin home into the light. In the days following their arrest, David and Louise Turpin faced widespread media scrutiny. The couple was charged with 12 counts of torture, 7 counts of abuse of a dependent adult, 6 counts of child abuse, and 12 counts of false imprisonment. The case shocked the nation, with millions horrified by the extent of the abuse the children endured. Prosecutors described the Turpins' treatment of their children as depraved and sought justice for years of unimaginable cruelty. As the trial began, harrowing details emerged. Prosecutors shared evidence of the chains used to restrain the children, the starvation diet of bread and water, and the psychological torment inflicted over decades. In April 2019, David and Louise Turpin pleaded guilty to multiple charges and were sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. For their children, it marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Although justice was served, questions lingered about how such severe abuse went unnoticed for so long. The Turpin case prompted a nationwide reckoning on child welfare, homeschooling regulations, and the responsibility of neighbors and community members to act. Though the Turpin children's journey to recovery is far from over, their resilience and strength inspire us all. Out of the darkness of their past, they now have a chance to live in the light of freedom and hope. In the days following their arrest, David and Louise Turpin faced widespread media scrutiny. The couple was charged with 12 counts of torture, 7 counts of abuse of a dependent adult, 6 counts of child abuse, and 12 counts of false imprisonment. The case shocked the nation, with millions horrified by the extent of the abuse the children endured. Prosecutors described the Turpins' treatment of their children as depraved and sought justice for years of unimaginable cruelty. As the trial began, harrowing details emerged. Prosecutors shared evidence of the chains used to restrain the children, the starvation diet of bread and water, and the psychological torment inflicted over decades. In April 2019, David and Louise Turpin pleaded guilty to multiple charges and were sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. For their children, it marked the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Although justice was served, questions lingered about how such severe abuse went unnoticed for so long. The Turpin case prompted a nationwide reckoning on child welfare, homeschooling regulations, and the responsibility of neighbors and community members to act. Though the Turpin children's journey to recovery is far from over, their resilience and strength inspire us all. Out of the darkness of their past, they now have a chance to live in the light of freedom and hope. For the 13 Turpin siblings, the rescue was just the beginning of a long and difficult road to recovery. Years of abuse and isolation had left deep physical and emotional scars, but for the first time, they had a chance at freedom. Immediately after their rescue, the children were placed in medical care. Doctors treated them for severe malnutrition, muscle atrophy, and delayed development. Some of the older siblings struggled to perform basic tasks, like crossing the street or preparing food. With the help of social workers, therapists, and advocates, the Turpin children began to experience the world for the first time. For some, it was learning to read and write. For others, it was discovering simple joys like playing outdoors or eating at a restaurant. Jordan and one of her sisters bravely came forward to share their story with the world. Their courage shed light on the horrors they endured and brought attention to the gaps in the system that failed them. The Turpin case sparked nationwide discussions about child welfare reforms. Lawmakers pushed for stricter homeschooling regulations and better oversight for at-risk children. However, the road to meaningful change has been slow. Advocates said, "The Turpin case is a wake-up call. We owe it to these children and countless others like them to ensure no one slips through the cracks again." Jordan Turpin has since become a symbol of resilience. She now advocates for survivors of abuse, using her voice to inspire change and provide hope to others who feel trapped. The journey to healing is ongoing, and the scars of the past will never fully disappear. But in their courage to survive and speak out, the Turpin siblings have reclaimed their lives and shown the world that even in the darkest circumstances, hope can prevail. The story of the Turpin family is not just one of horror, but of resilience, hope, and the enduring fight for justice. While the scars of their past remain, the siblings have shown incredible courage in reclaiming their lives and sharing their story with the world. Jordan Turpin said, "We didn't know what love was. We didn't know what safety felt like. But now we are learning and we are finding our voices. I want to help others who feel trapped and hopeless, just like we were." The Turpin siblings story has ignited a global movement to address child abuse and neglect. Advocacy groups and lawmakers continue to push for reforms to prevent tragedies like this from happening again. In the wake of the case, communities across the nation have come together to educate themselves and others about how to identify and report abuse. The power of vigilance and intervention has never been clearer. For the Turpin siblings, advocacy has become a path to healing. By speaking out, they are not only reclaiming their own lives, but also empowering others to break free from cycles of abuse. Jordan Turpin also said, "If our story can save even one person, then everything we went through is not in vain. We are survivors, and we want others to know they can survive too." While the Turpin siblings' journey is far from over, their story serves as a powerful reminder. Vigilance, compassion, and courage can save lives. And for those trapped in darkness, there is always hope. If you suspect abuse, don't stay silent. The courage of one person can save lives. For the Turpin children, freedom came with unimaginable pain, but their story is one of hope, resilience, and survival.
Thanks for watching. For more interesting videos, please subscribe.